Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us today to learn how BlackLine helps accounting teams, and specifically, what a typical day looks like for an accounting team that uses it. My name is Adam Riskin. I'm the BlackLine practice leader here at Revelwood. I'm also a former accountant and financial systems director, so I've been living the accounting systems world for most of my career. Also joining us today is Michele Quartel. So Michele works for BlackLine, and she's an expert with the software, but she's also a former controller and prior user of the tool, and she'll talk about her experience and how her team used BlackLine on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to talk through just a couple of slides first and then hand it over to Michele, where she'll actually pull up the software and show you what a day in the life of an accountant that uses BlackLine looks like. So just a little bit about Revelwood. So we've been in business for over 25 years, helping accounting and finance teams improve their processes. Almost all our consultants previously worked in accounting and finance departments, so they have a deep understanding of the accounting processes and technology, and this ensures our customers get the full value of the software they've purchased. Now, as it relates to BlackLine, we are a gold partner, which is the highest level a partner can achieve. And also, we did earn BlackLine's Partner of the Year award in 2022. A lot of hard work and effort went into that. A little bit about BlackLine as a company. So they specialize in creating software for accountants. In fact, a lot of their staff are former accountants and auditors, and it's really helped them to create the best financial close software on the market. And you can see from some of the stats here, they have a huge number of customers and users across the globe. They're recognized as the best in the industry, and they're publicly traded. So you can review their financials and investment in research and development for yourselves if you choose to on the internet. So why does a company look to BlackLine for help? So some of the common reasons are that either their close takes too long, or processes are manual, or management has a hard time knowing which tasks are completed, or maybe just sometimes users get fatigued. So take Excel, for example, the most common used tool for accountants. For as great as it is, it still has some drawbacks. You have to spend time manually keying in GL balances into your balance sheet recs each month, or spend time manually reconciling bank transactions to your general ledger transactions. And sometimes formulas or links break, causing your spreadsheets to be wrong. And look at this from management's view. It's hard to quickly see how their team is doing on their close tasks when everything is done in Excel. There's no system they can look at to get status updates. They have to email their team asking for updates, or they need to schedule team meetings. And so this leads to a ton of manual effort to close the books. And it's a hamster wheel effect because before you know it, the next close cycle is about to start. And although your team may be keeping up with their close activities, they might be losing the ability and capacity to work on other projects and initiatives. So you may want to do things like upgrade your ERP system or create some better reporting for your organization, but you just don't have the time to do it. And this is why BlackLine can be such a huge help to your team. It significantly reduces your time to complete closed tasks. It ensures that they're done correctly, and it gives your management team instant visibility into the status of these tasks. So what you're seeing here on this slide are some of the modules and features BlackLine offers. The 5 that Michele is going to show you how her team used back in her controller days are for balance sheet reconciliations. The system actually populates GL balances on each rec, allows you to create amortization and accrual schedules, and can complete some reconciliations for you. Has a transaction matching module. Most common use case here is for bank reconciliations. The system can match most of your bank statement transactions to your general ledger transactions for you. It can help you to track your monthly, quarterly, and year-end close tasks. It can help automate your variance or flux analysis that most companies do for their P&L accounts. And lastly, it can help with automation and approval workflows for your journal entries. So this all leads up to freeing your team's time and increasing your capacity to work on other projects and initiatives. You can see on the screen here all different types of projects accounting teams take on. The challenge for most is finding the time to dedicate to them. And with BlackLine, you can do it. Okay, so at this point, I want to reintroduce Michele. Again, she's a former controller and currently works for BlackLine. She has a great understanding of the business processes that go on in accounting departments and of the software. And she's also a great person. So with that being said, Michele, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Wow. Well, thank you, Adam. And it's great to be here and to meet everybody, if not just virtually. Excited to talk about BlackLine. And my main goal here today is going to be to give an overview and demonstration of the application. And I'm going to go ahead and get into that in a second. But I thought what I would do is I would just level set a little bit, because I know we've brought up a little bit about our background, but I think it's important to frame the discussion today from being a previous BlackLine customer. So while I've been at BlackLine for 9 years to date in areas of implementation, training, and in product, I was also an accountant first. I was in the accounting industry for 25 plus years in multiple controller roles. But significant, as I said, is that I'm a former BlackLine customer. So I bring this up because, as Adam spoke of really well, some of the heartaches and issues that we were going through in terms of capacity alignment were going on in an organization where we onboarded BlackLine. And what I mean by that is the following. There were certain pillars we were trying to achieve. First and foremost, we had certain CFO strategic initiatives, certain strategic goals in mind in the organization that we just couldn't get to as an F&A team because we were so busy closing the books. We had all these other systems that were not supporting us enough in being able to escape all that mundane manual work. So in particular for us, we had an intercompany mess, and there's no other easy way to put it, I think. And I'm sure some of you have felt this before, but in particular, a mess before the next audit cycle. We were in jeopardy possibly of having material audit adjustments, and nobody wants that. Second and foremost, we were going to be going through an ERP implementation in that same fiscal year. So I, as a controller, was looking at possible solutions for the following 3 pillars. I needed capacity alignment. I needed to be able to have my F&A team have time enough to concentrate on the deep dive analytics that were necessary to achieve the CFO initiatives. I also wanted to maintain what I call data first. So I wanted a centralized repository with continuous visibility at all levels so that I could count on the results. So I wanted integrity still, and I wanted to streamline and standardize that process. And then finally, and to me also very important, I wanted a system, a software, a solution that was easy to onboard and was flexible. I certainly did not want my F&A team to go through another ERP implementation prior to the actual one they were about to go through. So when we started to work with BlackLine, the first area that we worked through was from the reconciliation and task module. And
Michele?
Yes.
Just real quick, did you want to take control and share your screen?
I'm going to in a second, Adam, I promise.
Sorry about that. Yep.
Okay. And so when we did that, we were able to standardize processes. When we did standardized process, we moved and accelerated our month-end close from roughly 7 business days, if we were lucky, to at most 4 business days. And that was a tremendous pickup, a tremendous return on investment for us, right? And on top of that, because we could now lean on BlackLine as a system to help support all of those month-end close activities, we minimized all the manual effort, and therefore the risk of errors that are created when people complete on a manual process over and over was minimized. So our risk of errors went down. I could lean on the results. Because what we were able to achieve was the idea that the retainment of top staff was achieved. Previously, staff had wanted to leave relatively soon after starting the company because they just were not engaged with the low-level manual work. And so now they were engaged in the value-added CFO strategic initiative view, and we had more of a cost containment because there is an inherent cost when you have such a high level of turnover. So now what I'd like to do, though, is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go into the application to show you what that looks like. So here I am in the application itself, and I've purposely gone in at an executive view. And what I mean by executive view is that of anyone, let's say from an accounting manager upward, right? I didn't want to just isolate it to one particular role. And what we're seeing here is the dashboard. Now, the dashboard in BlackLine is completely customizable. And the purpose here is to be able to take data that resides inside BlackLine, that's imported in BlackLine, and be able to have it be insightful to make timely decisions. So for example, as an executive, I can see the balance sheet reconciliation status at any given time. I can look to what's unreconciled at any given time on an up-to-date basis. I can even go further if I wanted to be able to understand, well, okay, from past due reconciliations, what's key and non-key, so those higher risk accounts being key, what's going on there? What do I have there? I have 173 that are not prepared right now. I can drill into that if I wanted to, right? So I'm able to see from a high level at any one point in time. As I move forward, I can see what's open at more of a risk to the bottom line when it comes to any kind of adjustments to the trial balance or the general ledger. I can see their type and age, and now understand that these can be modified for any of the factors that the organization has on their setup and structure with their chart of accounts as well. And then finally, in this demonstration, I just wanted to bring forward that the tracking of tasks within month end and or in any kind of management status within the organization is possible. But for here in this example, I've shown the task closing status by entity. So I can see what's not prepared. Again, modification is based off of what the organization has. So this is just for demo purposes. Now this is at the executive level. But the way BlackLine works is that a user is possible to have multiple roles. And what I mean by that is you can see that this user, Kim Wilson, has been assigned prepare all the way down through to admin. Important though to understand is that segregation of duties exists throughout. So if Kim is assigned as a preparer to certain records, she can certify at the prepare record. When I say certify, I mean electronically signify that she has completed the record, but she cannot approve it at the same time. So segregation of duties exists, which is part and parcel for any audit trail. If I moved into the preparer role, we'll see that Kim, as a preparer, also has a dashboard. And when we are able to see her dashboard, we can see, for example, at the preparer level, there's complete visibility of understanding the workload that's ahead. So for example, Kim can see at any one point in time what's not prepared from a reconciliation standpoint that she needs to review, all the way through to what's been completed. And you'll even notice the system certified column. And what that is one of those efficiency measures in BlackLine that says, if you have identified accounts of lower risk, where perhaps the general ledger balance hasn't changed month over month, or it doesn't need to, or it's a zero balance, or the subledger meets up balance-wise with the general ledger balance and is under any kind of threshold you have, BlackLine will go ahead and auto-certify that, right? So the accountant, your GL team, is not having to go and download the subledger, or at least the summary level of it. then put it into Excel, then create a new reconciliation, then sign off on the reconciliation, then print it out, then have the approver sign. It's done automatically in BlackLine. And it's that alleviation of all that manual effort, all those activities in between, that's the capacity alignment. Now, that's not to say that anything would fall through the cracks, because workflow still resides even in those reconciliations to say, well, if it is above threshold, we still now need somebody to review it. That's what the workflow assignment is for. Now, on a normal basis, the easiest and most efficient way for a day in the life of an accountant, when they come in the morning, they've gotten their coffee, they want to understand what their workload looks like, is they can look at the dashboard. But with BlackLine, it's possible to see the workload that they have as a day in the life of an accountant through task management. And what I'm talking about here is the full integration between all of those 5 solutions that Adam spoke about previously. So what I'm showing you on the screen is a simple grid from task management. And you can see under the category that with task management in BlackLine, it's possible to track more than just month-end close, everything from audit and anything else that can be tracked. But often our customers use it, and I know I did, for month-end close to begin with. So we can filter and see exactly what is assigned. So that preparer in the morning comes in and now has a complete view on this day in month-end close, what I need to achieve and by when. And that's what I'm showing you here. It's a hierarchy view of the tasks, and then any of the reconciliations underneath, and also any of the reoccurring journals that are possible, where probably the amounts have to be updated, or perhaps the coding. Now you'll notice all these little identifications on the side. These are control features in BlackLine. So for example, this parent task, which is confirmation of the completion of all the balance sheet accounts. This is a way to control and identify with visibility when all the work is completed, because BlackLine will auto-certify. So we're no longer having these multiple month-end close checklists, which are in different people's SharePoint folders, and we have to access, and then we have to update. That activity goes away. This has now been set up through the task management, and it's modifiable and customizable. Don't have to auto-certify, but this is a good control procedure. We also see that it's tracking on a reconciliation level for any kind of certification. So whether it's system certified or it's gotten to a different level of review, such as reviewer. Now, seeing this view is great, but one of the other areas that I think is really very beneficial is the integration factor. From here, I can go into a reconciliation straight. I'm not going into another system. I'm not downloading information. And what you're now viewing on the screen is that first example of a reconciliation. It's a bank reconciliation. Now, BlackLine has 9 templates for reconciliations to begin with, but these are all customizable and you can create your own templates as you need. There are certain controls in every template that just go straight with the templates no matter what, such as a permanent record area. So now my accounting team, my GL accounting team, can have the information at their hand, including what that policy and purpose and procedure should be, who's assigned, what any thresholds might be, so forth and so on. Okay. The way reconciliations work in BlackLine, and Adam alluded to this, is that the GL balance is important. So we can see here in the period of 6/30, we have a 412K balance that's been imported. This is not manually input. And the reconciliations in BlackLine to attest to agree to reconcile and sign off on are either to another third-party balance and or to supporting items, so that we're telling the story of what the balance is about. And in the case of a bank reconciliation, we know that we're reconciling to the bank statement and the bank balance itself. So here we see that bank balance as well as of 6/30 that's been imported. Again, we are not keying it in, right? Now, what often happens in bank reconciliations, and this is why I bring this up. is that we are ticking and tying to a high level of transactional level activity, right? It's not just about the balance, but we have to support what that balance is, and that often results from a high level of transaction activity. Often accountants are left with doing this in Excel. We've all been there where we have all this data in 2 spreadsheets and we're trying to eyeball our way out of all the noise to figure out what's the value, right? In BlackLine instead, transaction matching is integrated into reconciliations. So that's what I'm pointing to here, this area called match set. And this example shows that there are 2 data sources, one for bank and one for GL, that have been imported on a scheduled basis and with logic that can be set up that is very flexible, right? I was very skeptical when I started as a customer whether it could handle the logic that we needed, but it could. And it was really easy to set up in the sense that it could be a one-to-one nature, a one-to-many nature, a many-to-many, a many-to-one. Grouping can take place. I literally, in the 9 years of my BlackLine, have never seen logic that would not be able to be handled by BlackLine. By applying this logic with its own rules engine, we end up in a place where now BlackLine has done the work of all that initial comparing and contrasting at the transaction level. And on this example, which again is not even that high, we see that there's 47,000 matches. So now I, as a preparer, am coming into this reconciliation, right? Let's take a bigger macro view. I'm coming into this, the GL balance has already been populated. The bank balance has already been populated. The transaction matching engine has already run. And I can concentrate now just on what I need to view for what makes up the difference. How do I validate what this balance is about? So I'm able to go to what's considered my unmatched, what doesn't match yet between those 2 data sources, between the bank and the GL. And in completing my analytics, I can identify where reconciliation items need to be added to the reconciliation itself. So that's what I'm pointing to here. You can see in my demonstration, I've already pre-added some of the items. So for example, this 32,576, I've determined that it's deposits per the GL and it's in transit perhaps, or it's pending, and I need to add this to the reconciliation. I can do so easily by creating an item, and or I have other options, but I won't go into all of that today. The important part here is to identify the time saved by being able to zone in on what really matters in the reconciliation. So now I can walk straight back to my reconciliation. That integration effect takes effect walking backwards as well. And knowing that the 32,000 needed to be part of this reconciliation, I can add that as a supporting item. You'll see up above that I also have bank items. There's flexibility in BlackLine to be able to set up for identification of certain items on a reoccurring basis to automatically populate within the reconciliation itself. But even on further analytics, the preparer can still add items as they need to. And it's important to understand that depending on the item, a journal entry might be needed to effect. So as I mentioned before, BlackLine can incorporate those reoccurring journal entries on an automated basis and even go one step further. And I'll show you this in my second example, where it's a touchless exercise, right? The journal that's created is set up by a definition and it completely populates and then posts downstream into the ERP without the preparer or the accountant having to do anything in that manner. Here, though, the third option is still being able to create a journal from the reconciliation itself, and that's what I've done. This is an example of a journal that's been created at that point of reconciliation, okay? That now will be certified, again, electronically attested to, and then posted downstream into the GL. I think it's important to keep raising the high level here so we see the full picture. What I've done is I've now gone straight from reviewing what I have to complete, where it sits, straight into the integrative factor of a continuous view of my reconciliations. knowing that the GL balance has been imported, all of my balances have been imported. I've been able to have the transaction matching rules engine run. And now I'm concentrating on purely what was unmatched or what I need to support my reconciliation on the difference, right? On the unidentified difference. And in doing so, if I need to identify to adjust the GL, I can do so with a journal. And I've done this all within one area, one centralized view. Okay. Now, harking back to what I said on some of the pillars that I was looking to, I needed to want to ensure that it was data first and there was visibility. I did not want to continue to have that scattered view in my organization where I was always searching for, well, where are the documents and what are the comments associated to this and why wasn't it attached to the printout of the reconciliation? Here in BlackLine, we found that we could add comments where there was complete visibility, as well as documents at the reconciliation and at the transaction level too, if we needed to, or at the journal level if we needed to. So I had that visibility. And then down below, and the auditors love this, we have the certification statement. This is that electronic area that says, yes, I've done my work, and this information can be modified or flexible to what is the organizational need, along with even adding certain internal controls, right? So that's that area you see where all the policies and procedures have been reviewed. So we have the ability in BlackLine to adhere and be flexible to what the organization needs. And I know from my previous experience, it worked in my organization, which did have a tremendous amount of need for internal controls. Lastly, down below, I always like to show this because I, as a controller, knew what the balances were about. I knew kind of the high level of the activity, right? I wasn't necessarily doing the reconciliations at that point, at that level, but I knew what the balances should feel like, what the story should be. Yet I wanted to see a high level view of, well, what's my trend? What am I missing here? And so with one click on going into any reconciliation, I could see what that trend was by looking at these balances. And this is just one example of what I would call a power link, if you will, where you're able to drill into information that's available at any given time and how an accountant would appropriately use this at different levels. Now, I'm going to scroll back up. And I want to go to one other area of integration within this reconciliation. And that's our variance area. So now I've gone from task management to reconciliation to transaction matching to journals. But we all know that we go through this month-end close process and we run to get towards month-end close. And we want to get our numbers final. And then we come to this dead stop. And then we say, okay, now let's do a look back and see what our flux is about. Instead, with the BlackLine philosophy, it's a continuous view. So while completing the reconciliation and having the rules engine from matching, do all that lifting of transaction review at a manual level, instead it's now done at BlackLine, and completing journals, I can also go to the variance. And you'll see there's different rules that can be run, right? We often go back and do flux analysis based off of month over month, quarter over quarter, budget over actual, etc. So if I went, for example, into this first area, this rule type of month over month, I am now taken to the variance analytics for that account, for that bank account. I can see what my 630 balance was, my 531 balance was, straight from what was imported into the reconciliation itself, right? And I can see the difference. So I already see that this has partially been done with a missing deposit, and then, oh, I have this 32,000. Instead of now creating another Excel spreadsheet and dumping in the trial balance and doing a comparative analysis and then going into another system to get all the information, I have it readily here for me because I can go to the reconciliation straight to copy items over, right? And in this demonstration, I'm making it fairly straightforward. I'm going to take that 32,000 that I was talking about in the reconciliation side, right? That I created from a supporting item from the transaction matching match set that where the rules had run and identified that this was still unmatched. And I'm going to go ahead and copy it over into the actual variance analysis itself. So it's important to see the efficiency there. Okay. That's the meaning of the demonstration. Yes, I have an unexplained amount now of 0. That was set up for the demonstration purposes. But yes, I can now certify, meaning I can electronically certify to say, this is the variance, this is the reason for the flux month over month. And the same visibility exists down below on what information is pertinent about this flux, right? If there are any thresholds, right? What's my exposure? What's my policy and procedure? Who's assigned? And I still have the same certification statement. Now, uniquely, what's important, as well as I walk straight back to the reconciliation. So germane to this whole exercise, right? Thinking back what I was saying before, I am now allowing for a capacity alignment. My F&A team can concentrate on what's important to do within the reconciliation, but we're not taking that extra time with all those activities that are lower level manual to create new spreadsheets, to run new reports, to extract new data from different systems, that simply wasn't supporting that middle ground of all the work we do during month-end close. I like to show a second example because I think it's great to see automation at play in BlackLine. And I'm going to use the prepaid example here. I'm going to go into another reconciliation. And this is of the prepaid amortization side. So this is showing what the prepaid property taxes balances should be. This is a template within BlackLine. And this also has certain attributes to it that I'm going to discuss, such as automated roll forward. The reason why I bring this up is for that automated roll forward feature, because this is automation at play where normally we do have, as part of our analysis at month end, a roll forward that we build out, and it always looks beautiful in Excel, and we take time and we pull out our documents and we attach and so forth and so on. But that takes quite a bit of valuable time that could be spent elsewhere. So instead in BlackLine, understanding that the general ledger, again, the balance has been imported, and here we're comparing to what those amortizable items are over the period of the life, we now have the ability, based off of that data imported for those items, to see a roll forward schedule, right? So we can see what the balances are for any period in time based off of that amortization line, okay? So in this case, we're seeing what the balance is as of 6/30. Uniquely, we can also see what the activity is. And this is where I was going to when I alluded to the fact that BlackLine can pick up information and create journal entries on a touchless exercise with a definition. BlackLine can isolate this activity of amortization for this month based off of this schedule and go ahead and create the journal for you without the preparer having to create a new spreadsheet to upload a journal entry, and instead that's created and then posted downstream. Auditors love this view. And of course, it can be exported as needed and ticked and tied back to with the journals. Now, the final area I think that I want to show you is reporting, where I started with a dashboard and I made the statement of we need to ensure that there was visibility all the way through and that the data that comes through creates actionable insights on a timely basis. There are also reports that do the same thing within BlackLine. And I think it's important to understand that from an organizational standpoint, there's certain reports that probably certain roles want to see on a daily basis, if not more, especially during month-end close. BlackLine has over 75 reports, and then we can build off of those reports into an internal reports for the organization as well. But you can also modify and create them in your own folder. So for example, here in this demonstration, I as a controller know that I always wanted to have a review quarter over quarter over quarter, 3 quarter over quarter, right? To be able to say, what does my trial balance look like? What am I missing? And this would evolve during the month end. Well, I could have this built and then scheduled to run. So I no longer was sitting trying to cobble together information or having one of my team members do so that I could review this every day during month end close. It was run for me on an instantaneous basis. And I could modify it as I need to for other fields. All of the data that is represented, that's imported, that's built within BlackLine is reportable within reports and also on the dashboard. So I'm able to see my trial balance here. Now, if I were a senior financial analyst, I know I would want to be looking at, well, what's open in terms of items and what their age is, because I've got to do analysis and compare it to budget, perhaps. Here, a report by type, meaning by financial type. Accruable items, amortizational items, bank items, so forth and so on. And then I wanted to see, well, gosh, okay, well, how old are they, right? Right. So now I'm able to see by age, right? Either in the visual or in the tabular form down below. And I could isolate and follow up on those as necessary by being able to go to the reconciliation and then leaving a comment for follow-up to the person who was assigned to the reconciliation to understand, well, what's going on? Why hasn't this closed out? Then the final view I would like to show is still in reports. I know my accounting manager would often look to the workload effect, right? Who's doing what and what's not done? And again, that balance is super, super important to understand for mitigating any issues during month-end close or otherwise. So here, this report again, all of these reports can be scheduled and run as needed. But here we're seeing another view. We're seeing what that workload balance looks like. And it looks like Kim has a lot of work assigned to her versus others. So you can see exactly what's not prepared, what's not even required this period, what's prepared, so forth and so on. And you can see it by area of financial category. This becomes important because, as we know, during month-end close, there are more sensitive areas to others, and they need to be done in a sequential manner. Okay. So now with that, that's the high-level overview of a day in the life of an accountant, where we have shown integration between the actual task management view, a full view of what the ownership is for that accountant to achieve, and then moving straight into the integration view from tasks to reconciliations, alleviating all the burden of the lower level transaction review from transaction matching, allowing for automation with the journal entry creation and the flux analysis, and then finally having an upper level reporting view as well. This all comes within one centralized repository. And so, Adam, with that, what I'd like to do is turn it back to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michele. Thank you very much. Let me just share the screen here. Okay. All right, everyone. Well, that concludes today's webinar. I do want to thank everyone for taking the time to join today. If you do have any questions, please feel free to email us at info@revelwood.com. Also, we will be reaching out asking for a quick 15-minute introduction call. We hope that you can accept that meeting and just have a quick conversation with us. Thanks again, everyone.